So for those of you playing at home, it is the 12th of October. We're doing 8-1. If we get to it, this picture is going to relate to that, but it won't drop on there because my computer hates me. But aside from that, we're first checking our homeworks in Chapter 7. We're still on 7-2, dealing with special right triangles. The biggest thing with 6 is to identify that your hypotenuse is double your short side. Now, we don't know our short side right now, but the long side is radical 3 times your short side. So that makes my short side 4.
Yeah, I accidentally had like the long side was double my short side.
Ah, yeah.
I did all the other ones, just that one.
You got to always realize across from my 30 is going to be my short side, and my hypotenuse is what's double my short side. Yeah.
Maybe it's because I didn't get the notes, but why is number 1 9 in radical 2?
Anyone want to help him out?
Well, the hypotenuse is radical 2 times the short side of any other side thingy. So in isosceles 45, so 90. So that divided by radical 2. Well, basically, like anytime you have a leg, we came up with like the pattern that the leg looks. The hypotenuse divide by 2 and then stick a root 2 on the end.
Yeah. Because, and if you go back to the notes from this section, you can see this. And if you watch the video, you can see where we derived kind of the formula of 1/2 the hypotenuse times radical 2. But we know that the hypotenuse itself is going to be radical 2 times the short side. So if I kind of work this backwards, since you already see the answer, if I had that my short side is 9 radical 2, well, radical 2 times radical 2 is just 2. 2 times 9 gives me 18. So really, we derived a formula dealing with the isosceles right triangle that your short side is half your hypotenuse times rad 2.
All right. And then since it's isosceles, y would also be...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. They're both the same. Other questions? Moving on to 7 through 14. I guess I can zoom this a little bit more. Be kind to your eyeballs. Where's my water? You want to see it or?
It's in centimeters.
Ha! That's the trick. Did you get?
If I change it from meters to centimeters, it still would have been off. And I did.
So, how many centimeters are in a meter? Cent. 100, right? So if I try to turn from meters to centimeters, this will be how many centimeters? 1,300, right? Because I just multiply by 100. So really, if we want to talk in centimeters, which makes my life easier because then the values are larger, I can just talk about 1,300 centimeters. It's the diagonal of the square. We know that this is going to be what kind of right triangle? Isosceles right triangle, right? So, since it's isosceles right triangle and this is my hypotenuse, if we use the formula that we just talked about, my short leg is going to equal half the hypotenuse times radical 2. So half of my hypotenuse here is going to be 650 times radical 2, which radical 2 is approximately, anyone remember? Decimal value of radical 2? 1.4, right? It's right about 1.4. So if we do the actual radical 2, because we don't want to approximate unless we have to, times the 650, which is half of my 1,300, I get 919.238.
I don't know what I did. It wasn't changing it from centimeters to meters to centimeters.
Did you try to use the Pythagorean theorem there?
No, I did something completely not right.
So does the process that we should take make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, like I did it correct everywhere else. It was just that one problem.
Weird. Maybe that was just a fluke. Maybe you had a brain fart. Happens occasionally. Other questions? It was awesome.
Was it?
Your goalie gear, I understand what you mean now. It's just so blue. It's
Yeah.
just blue.
No, I told one of the other coaches that gives me the gear, like, I need it.
Would you see the 7th grade gear? It's like green and black and swirly and
They
like
gave her
cool.
that. Where's my cool jersey?
Well, you're probably taller than her.
No, I mean, they're all like, it's.
Oh, it's the
gears
same
they give us
gear?
is unisex.
Oh, it's like one size, that's
Yeah.
it.
Like my
Interesting.
pants, I have to like really, really cinch them tight because they're so big.
And they're so heavy,
yeah,
probably.
and I talked to the varsity coach because next year I'm gonna, whether I play for varsity
Yeah.
or not, I'm gonna get her gear.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, you better give me some good pants because these ones suck.
Yeah. On the back, questions here. Rhea?
15, I got 27 inches.
Use of a makeshift greenhouse. Square pane of glass against the building. The glass is 4.5 feet long. There's a 30-degree angle with the ground. So this is going to be our 30 degrees. This is going to be 4.5 feet because it's how long the pane is. How much horizontal distance between the building and the glass is there to grow plants? So this is feet. And since we want to convert to an easier unit to deal with, we should turn that into inches. So 4 feet would be 48 inches. Half a foot would be another 6 inches. So this we can really think of as 54 inches. Are you with me till there? So then what we want to do is... Their answer's wrong. Is that, did somebody say wait? I thought I heard a wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Never mind.
Well, what were you going to say?
No, I'm good.
Is it 48? Isn't it?
The glass
I
is
got 47.
against the building. 30-degree angle with the ground.
I got 27.
It should be 27. I think that's a typo on their part
I got
because if it's a 30-degree angle with the ground, ooh, hold up. I drew
That
this
makes that
totally
long
wrong. Yeah, I drew this totally wrong. That's how easy it is to make a mistake. I am not flawless. I will admit that before anybody else. I make a lot of mistakes.
No, I'm
So, this short side, sorry, you guys probably set up the same triangle that I had if you got 27. Sorry, not degrees. That'd be inches. I don't know what I'm doing. But the long side then, how do we find the long side in a 30, 60, 90? Times rad 3, right? So it's going to be my short side times radical 3,
Which is
probably approximately 47.
Good.
Their answer might
Suppose
actually
I
be
didn't say
right.
the answer was, like, suppose I didn't say that was 27 inches. Where did you get the 27 inches from?
Because if it is the short side into my 30, 60, 90 triangle, the short side's half the hypotenuse. So the vertical height, like, and actually, if we want to talk technically, this glass would have a hard time leaning like this unless it had a firm support at the end, but it's going to want to fall because that 30-degree angle is not very much support. That's why when I drew it, I assumed it would be something like this because that would lean like it should. This would be very tough. So maybe you have some like sprouts under there because greenhouses, we're like trying to grow plants. So maybe they have some really short plants under there, but that's only 27 inches tall at the tallest. We then do 27 times rad 3 to get my long side, which guys, if you are struggling to remember whether I use rad 2 or rad 3, rad 3 is involved in the 30-degree triangle. Rad 2 is involved in the triangle with 2 equal angles. So if that helps the memory trick, when we have 30 degrees, we involve radical 3. When we have 2 congruent angles, I involve radical 2. Does this make sense now? So you probably just drew the picture wrong, like I had done initially. Don't beat yourself up about it. It happens. Anything else? Oh, crap. Yeah, that's not gonna... I'm gonna capture this again so it can actually see 15. Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick math question?
Always.
So if you have 3a squared minus 5 something or other, when you're gonna do this equation. Do you square the a first? Or do you
Divide by
multiply
3
the
and
two?
then
What are you trying to do? Are you trying to solve for A?
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
what
A
is?
is 2. No, you gave the answer. You said
Oh,
A
so this is an expression,
Uh-huh.
and they're saying if A
It's
is 2, what's the answer?
And it's,
Oh,
uh,
and then it's
like
plus 2,
minus-
isn't
It's
it?
like minus 4a.
Yeah, I know what problem you're
plus
talking
2.
about.
It's
So, put it to the class. Order of
That's
operations.
why
Square
I'm
the
A
A
first.
Square
So
A
there
first.
are no parentheses. So then we move down. So when you guys say square the A first, I agree, but it's because there's no parentheses. We square the A, so we really square the 2.
That's
So
what
this
I said.
becomes 4.
Yeah.
Then we drop down to multiply, divide.
Yep.
There's only multiplication, 3 times 4. This all becomes 12.
And then
And I have
negative
12 minus 4. I can plug in the 2 there.
Yeah.
Plus 2. This multiplication can happen now because I was working left to right finding my multiplication.
Just go over
So I
here.
get 12 minus 8 plus, and then I still have to add and subtract
Yeah.
left to right. That's where most people are making their mistakes. They'll like add these up and then subtract. Nah, you gotta do it left to right.
I'm so proud.
Yay.
Nice job, Miss
Goldring.
Goldring.
She still remembers a little bit of math, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
All right,
where's
now
my
solve.
classroom?
Now solve for A here.
Where's my classroom? Oh. No.
You gonna solve for the A in this one, Terry?
Which
You got
Do a
this,
little bit of
Miss
trig.
Goldring.
Cover up the answer.
Cover up the. Doesn't work really well.
one? Isn't that 1/2 of the? No, wait a minute. No, wait.
You got this,
You
Miss
got this,
Goldring.
Miss Goldring.
Do I?
Yeah.
You got it.
You got
Yeah,
it.
you can do it. You can do it.
We believe.
Enter the date of
I don't
birth.
think so. I can barely do it. I think
Miss
I'm
Goldring, you can beat Brian. Come on.
Yeah, the grind is
You better beat Brian.
It's whether or not you remember the tricks. That's the thing about the special right triangles. So to remind the class and remind Mrs. Goldring, how would I find the leg on a 45-45? Because we can only.
Wait, Mr. Hudson, I need
I knew that.
17 done.
Ooh,
It
17.
has
All
to
right.
have to-
Yeah, I was reading my hand.
An equilateral triangle has a height of 26 centimeters. Equilateral height 26 centimeters.
Yeah.
What is the length of each side of the? This is the exact same problem essentially. So if we know the height, if we know the height,
Really, Miss Goldring.
Were you just saying that?
You're literally just like Brian. He's like, so what do you do next? Well, I don't know, but I think the answer is 30.
I would never do
Dude, I swear.
all right, back up. We have an equilateral triangle. What are each of these angles? 60, right?
This is it.
I was gonna tell this myself.
So what is this angle?
30.
A 30.
30, 60, 90.
So we have a 30, 60, 90 special.
Yep.
Which leg do I have?
You have the long leg.
The long leg. We're kind of making an assumption here,
Yeah.
but we would think that that's got to be the long leg, especially since I see the answer there.
Don't shush the teachers.
It's across
Question?
the 60, it's opposite to the 60 degrees, so it would be the longest. You don't have to assume it.
Ooh, there we go. It's opposite the 60. We know it has to be the longest. How do I find my short side related to my long side?
You radical, or no, times.
Times
Yeah,
radical.
times.
Well, all the hands that had gone up went down except for Calvin's. Calvin.
Calvin's.
You divide by radical 3.
We divide by rad 3 because it's the 30 degree. We know we involve the radical 3. So this will be 26 divided by radical 3.
You want us to do that?
And this would just be double of that. So when I do 26 divided by radical 3, I bet you we get 15. Hey, we get 15.011107. Rounded, that's close enough to 15. Yeah, that's. She had that in her head.
Yeah, like she already had that. She was just waiting for
And
it.
then double to the nearest centimeter
Fun.
brings me to 30.
I
Miss
think
Gold,
this
you-
kind of, that's so rewarding. I love that.
It's like the snowball effect. I found out this, and I can find out that.
This tree, you gotta follow little, like,
Wait, I think I just
That's-
didn't simplify.
that's the most fun.
Are you gonna be like Mr.
Like,
You think you just
Hudson or
didn't simplify
related
this?
factors
I
subject
didn't
to
round,
teach?
and then I got a higher answer. I think I did
So
like
if you look at
Yeah,
this
I
as
think
2
that's-
times 26 over radical
Oh,
3.
Mr. Hudson, we have a great example of trig. in Mr. Allen's class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this kid was going after Mr. Allen's kid in football.
And so Mr. Allen's kid was
If you
running
would-
along
you-
the sideline,
Yeah.
and this one kid tried to get a pursuit angle, but he didn't get him right.
He didn't use the trig. He didn't use the trig. He didn't get the attack. And
You got to change your angle to adjust for tracking. You have to anticipate.
If you know his length from the sideline,
And then you use the 30, 60, 90 triangle.
It would be
and
so
you'd have
easy.
perfect-
I love it.
Shut up.
I love it, but let's keep moving.
Also,
You have
Mr. Combs,
perfectly predicted.
All right, that was 17.
Right.
18 through 21.
Get done the trig.
18 through 21. Any questions?
Matches.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Perfectly grab the flag.
I
Get
do
rid
have
of
a
it.
question.
Ria?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, 21. For B, I got 8 radical 2 plus 22.
All right, guys, we got to kill the side conversations.
Okay.
So, what I know is this leg is 11 rad 2.
Yeah.
Because I know that this was 11 rad 2. If this is 45 degrees and this meets at a perpendicular, that means that this section also has to be 11 rad 2. This section I already know is 8 rad 2. So I have 8 radical 2 and 11 radical 2.
Which equals 19 radical 2.
A radical value can be thought of as a variable. Because think about, what if you had 8x and 11x? You would just say, put them together, we get 19x. So when you have a radical value, you can think of it like it's its own special thing. It's its own dude. It's like a variable. It's like something attached to the number that we could either compute what this is, compute what that is, and then add them, or realize they're like terms because they both involve radical 2. When they share a common value, this is like a common factor between them, I can just add them and keep the
Wait, how'd
radical
you
2.
get A?
How do we get A? Then I know that because it's a 45-45 right triangle, how's my hypotenuse compare? I have 2 angles the same.
Radical 2.
It's radical 2 what?
11 radical 2.
So it's radical 2 times the short side.
Yeah.
So it's going to be radical 2 times 11, rad 2.
Yeah.
Radical 2 times radical 2
Radical 4.
is 2 times 11 gets 22.
I keep saying the short side.
I did that in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, the side. I just like can't stop myself because it's shorter than the hypotenuse. Well, it's not the long side.
It's A side.
It's the side. So it's
A shorter side.
it's a shorter side, yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
I'm not saying that what I'm saying is right. I just can't stop myself. So as long as you know what I mean, that's what matters. And if you don't know what I mean, ask a question.
I got you.
Wait, Mr. Hudson,
Yeah?
how would we know that was a square? Like,
Because you see 90,
well, not a square, a
90.
rectangle. Like,
So I know that
Oh,
these lines have to be parallel to each other.
right.
Because there's a transversal that meets them both at 90
Okay,
degrees.
then.
If I rise a transversal off of here at 90 degrees, it must be parallel to this line. It has to be a rectangle.
Alright, I was just blanking a bit.
That's why we did our parallel line rules,
Right.
because now we know all that and we can just kind of infer it as we go, and we don't necessarily have to explicitly state why and how.
Alright, coolio.
Because now it's kind of this assumed knowledge. Because we've mastered those sections, we have that assumed knowledge.
Right.
Brian's like,
He's like, what did he say?
You know what assuming does. Any other questions?
I love that. I love that. 22.
22.
I don't understand that.
Right triangle ABC has area 32 rad 3 and angle measure, it's a 30, 60, 90. What's the length of BC, AB, AC?
Yeah.
So this is utilizing the fact that we can find the area of a triangle by 1/2 base times height, right? And in a 30, 60, 90, I've got a base and a height because those are my perpendicular sides. So I'm going to draw this down here because it's easier. A is your 30. So A, B is your 90. C has to be your 60 then. The area is 32 rad 3. So we know that that actually has to be... What happened to my radical? Come on, smartboard. Is 1/2 base times height, which is I kind of want to rename these things in a way. Well, the first thing we can do is deal with the fact that if I have 1/2 of something, I can double the other side and get rid of the 1/2. So I can start out by saying 64 radical 3 will equal the base times the height. From there, I know that my like if I start labeling things, if I say that this is x, this is 2x, and this is radical 3x, then I could replace my base and my height with x and radical 3x because they're perpendicular to each other. So if I sub in radical 3x times x, because this is radical 3 times x, the x is not under the radical. I just wrote the radical first with a specific purpose. What can I do with my x's?
You can.
Yeah, x times x is x squared. So this becomes 64 radical 3 equals radical 3 times x squared. Do we see it?
Oh wait,
Caleb?
can you cancel out the radical 3?
Get rid of your radical 3's
And then
by
you
dividing
press-
on both sides.
And then 64
Sides.
equals x squared. Okay. X, and then x equals 8. Yeah.
And from there, this has to be radical 3 times 8. This has to be 16.
Nice.
It's all, so guys, it all goes back to Dr. Smith. If you don't know how to do it, Dr. Smith, my professor from Otterbein, favorite person, like favorite math teacher probably of all time. If you don't know how to do it, better than me, draw a picture, start notating what you know. I can draw this picture based off them telling me my A, B, and C. I know the area, but I don't care about that yet. Start labeling. I don't know any side lengths, so give it some variable representations. Then plug into the formula and let it go where it goes.
23.
An equilateral triangle has a perimeter of 120. What is the area of the triangle? So equilateral, not bad, equilateral. What would each edge length be? 40, right? But I'm actually going to do this instead. Because if I want to find the area, I need the height. So if I split this, I now have a 30, 60, and a 90. This is also a great rationale for why the hypotenuse is twice your short side. Because if you set it up in an equilateral triangle to get to your 30, 60, 90, it has to be. Like you could write a proof and explain that pretty easily. So we then know that the height, because it's the 30 degree, Brian.
Is that gonna be the test? You
Oh,
have to
never mind. I
prove
figured
that
out
the equilateral is.
Not necessarily.
On your test,
Is it?
only yours.
Yes or no?
I don't know yet. I'm not done with it. We haven't gotten through the review. I'm not done like tweaking, choosing.
Okay.
I doubt it, but what concerns you about that?
I just want to know.
So he can specifically study for the material that's going to be on the test.
So
paper,
if this were on the test,
Mhm.
here's how you would think through it. You have an equilateral triangle. You know all of your angles are 60.
Uh-huh.
If I drop a vertical, I know I've made a right triangle.
That is correct.
By dropping the vertical, it has to be an angle bisector. Because if it's a side bisector, it's an angle bisector. Which means that this angle now has to be 30. We've now created a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Since this point is the bisector, the now hypotenuse is going to be twice as long as the now short side of my right triangle. Done. Now, you would want some, mathy language in there as opposed to just flowing through it. But if we were having a conversation, that's enough to justify it. Yeah, those are all your mathematical properties. So, what are we trying to figure out? The height. So the height here, because it's a 30 degree, it involves radical 3. I'm trying to get that connection in your head. 30 degrees involves radical 3.
All right.
So this will be radical 3 times 20. And from there, I can 1/2 the base, 20, times the height, radical 3 times 20. It will get us to 400 rad 3.
I don't know why I did this, but I multiplied 40 and 20 and left it at that.
Ugh, how dare you? It happens. I don't know either. It's hard because, right, when you did this a little while ago, like a few days ago, it's always like, what was I thinking then? And it's hard to necessarily remember how you got to that mistake point.
I don't remember how I did it. I just know, like, the only way I could get 800 was just multiplying 40 and 20.
Well, you didn't want 800.
The most obvious thing I can think of, the way I ended up getting that. So.
Oh, you're thinking, how did you get to your wrong? I see what you're saying. Ethan.
I'm kind of confused on 20, which is it's up. It's right.
Same setup like we did in 21. I know that these have to be parallel.
I'm just confused on how to get A.
So if I bring this up, I make a rectangle, and this is also A. So it is the long edge of my right triangle, of my 30, 60, 90. I know that my short side, which must be across from my 60, has to be what in comparison to your long side?
Half.
Half of it. So what's half of 10 radical 3?
5 radical 3.
5 radical 3, right? Because we treat the radical like a variable. So then I know my long side is what comparison in the 30, 60, 90?
Times radical 3.
Times radical 3. If I take radical 3 times radical 3, what's that make? Square root of 3 times square root of 3.
1. No, 3.
Yeah, because think about like square root of 9 times square root of 9. Well, that's 3 times 3. You make 9. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 just makes 3. So A now has to be, I'm going to show a little bit of this work.
And wait, can you just assume that 30 B is 30?
Yeah,
No.
no, it's not. It's 30. It's this. So this length of 30 was the whole thing.
Okay. Now.
So when I see that this segment is 5 rad 3, it's 30 minus the 5 rad
I
3.
was confused. I was like, can you just say that?
No, that's a minus, not a dash or anything
Alright,
like that. Come.
Is there any like type of problem that you were looking for on 24?
No. I mean, there's a lot that I could create, but there's no specific type.
Okay.
Like what we were talking about, 45, 45, 90. When Estes was talking about his arborist, and now I can't draw it as well. Got to chop some of this off. But if we had an 18-foot hypotenuse, let's say that we had an 18-foot rope tied to the top of the tree. And I know that I'm making a 45-degree angle with the ground and the rope. How tall is the tree? That sort of question. Which that would not be that tall of a tree. If we were talking like 18 yards, that might be a tall enough tree that I start to get worried. All right, can we move on to our, after special right triangles was
Trig. It's gonna be Trig.
Trig. Finally Trig, yay.
K.
Trig is the fun.
It's K.
Okay, nice, thank you.
It's K. It's 7-3. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 7-3.
That could be in my locker.
Go check.
How do I have more stuff than you and I wasn't here today?
Because
You
you
over
got
there?
it.
Yeah, because I actually know where it is. You lose all the stuff.
It is when you're Brian.
All right, 1, 2, or 3 questions? I would hope not. Well, I mean, if so, that's fine. Sorry, I shouldn't say things like that, but it's just setting up the ratios. We're not even solving. It's just seeing, can you do so opposite over hypotenuse, ka adjacent over hypotenuse, toa opposite over adjacent.
Wait,
What?
I'm looking. Okay.
Good? 1, 2, 3. Bueno?
I just had a question. Didn't you say that? Never mind. Just kidding. Never mind.
Now you've gone down and made it mad.
Wow, Carmen.
Come on.
Come on, Corey.
Watch it with the language. That's what you said.
Corey.
4 through 8. Questions from that? Yeah.
On 7 if we don't do the point 0.
Totally fine. That point 0 is a non-significant digit. So that number is not affected by whether it exists or not.
I'm kind of confused. For 5 and 8, for 5 I got 5.7, and for 8 I got 2.2. But I'm not quite sure how I could be off by that little.
So if we want to solve for x compared to that 22-degree angle, like we're looking at 5, that would be opposite and hypotenuse. So we'd use cosine of 22 equals the opposite over...
That's sine. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Making sure you guys are paying attention.
Oh, I know what I did. I said the angle was 24, not 22.
I was wondering if you were just off on your angle.
tau.
No, what did I do? Oh gosh. Wait.
This is why I always tell you guys to slow down. Up here, when you're just asking questions and it's not a lesson, I'm trying to go really fast. And I, as you can see, screw
Okay.
up.
I'm all good, thank you.
You're all good? That's what I told your parents too. They emailed me, they're like, do we need to sign up for a conference? And we're like, absolutely not.
Oh yeah.
My parents have never gone to it.
Well, that's a good thing. Here, we invite your parents if we need to.
Well, that's a good idea.
We invite all parents if they want to sign up, but we will send emails to people and say, hey, you should sign up. 11 through 15, did you find it or do you need another? Yeah, found another, or you found it.
Take conferences, but I basically told them they're mandatory, so
11 through 15, solving the trig on those.
I didn't actually tell them they're mandatory. They just got the impression they're mandatory.
I mean, it never hurts to come talk with your teachers.
You can do it.
Well, it could hurt you.
Yeah, it can expose the fact that he doesn't do anything.
See that face? That's how much it hurts.
Especially this Brian's room. I had to catch his arm to get him to come see me last year.
Yeah, well.
He avoided me like a plague.
I wonder why.
Apparently, all you need to do is bribe him with food, is what he's told me.
Yeah, candy. Oh my gosh.
All right, any questions? The trig is pretty much if you know how to plug it in, you're computing the values. It's not a lot of potential for error unless you set it up wrong. So if you have any errors, it's probably in your setup.
Yeah, I think my second.
Calvin? Yes, no?
Okay.
Good? Okay.
18.
18 asks, Jed is building a roof for his shed. The highest point of the roof will be 3 feet higher than the top of the shed. The slant side of the roof will be 7 feet long. What is the measure of the angle formed by the top of the shed and the slanted roof? So if I draw just a picture of what we have described, 3 feet taller than the rest of it, 7 feet long, and they want what is the measure of the angle formed by the top of the shed and the slanted roof. So I think they're talking about this angle. Yeah, it would need to be. Because the shed would be your horizontal and the roof would be sitting on top, propped up with something in the middle. So we have opposite and hypotenuse, which is our SOHCAHTOA. So I plug in sine, I just need somewhere right, sine of my unknown theta equals the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse. So I will use the inverse sine to cancel out the sine. So when I do inverse sine of 3/7, as long as your calculator is in degrees, you should get 25.37.
I don't know how I
Are those
did
like
it
the special
before.
names
I mean,
for
I
the
got
other
it this time, but
Yeah, this one's-
before I ended up getting like 64 point something. For the other side.
You were probably solving for this one.
Yeah.
I bet you accidentally solved for that one. Because that one would be approximately 64.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just solved for the wrong angle, which is fine. Or you accidentally used cosine instead of sine. That can be another issue. If you accidentally use the wrong trig, you'll solve for the wrong angle. Brian, you had a question.
Are those just like the sin -1?
Yeah, the inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are abbreviations on the button. Please don't call them sin, cos, and tan because it makes you sound like, I'm not direct to you, I mean to the whole class. When you go into the high school, they're going to laugh at you if you say sin, cos, and tan. It's sine, cosine, and tangent. It's just abbreviated on your calculator.
I don't want to abbreviate my speech too.
I don't care what you say. I'm prepping you for the future. I know what you mean when you say sin, but you're not communicating it effectively to others.
Brian, you're over in high school. You're gonna like start to punch people.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's how you get kicked out of high school.
Yeah, I
But
know.
that's up
That's
to
what
you.
he does.
And
When
he's going to
people
get
laugh
Is
at
he
him.
gonna complain?
All right. Anything else from Trig?
He won. Yeah, he
I don't
doesn't
wanna-
All right, on to our next one.
G.
I don't want to sound that I don't
G.
believe it, 'cause then he's not gonna do well.
That was a little late, but it was still decent.
Or at least
Were we supposed to write from birds to sheep?
No, it's fine. They go very detailed. One through 8. Remember, it's relative to the horizon, whether it's elevation or depression.
Oh. Wait, is it okay if we just like?
Yeah, if you just said elevation or depression, that's fine.
I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Can you take out your headphones, both of you gentlemen, so that we're aware that you're actually focused? Because they just asked that question.
Alright.
Yeah. It's also just disrespectful. I had not noticed that you had those in. But imagine if you came to ask me a question during AO and I had my headphones on, my big old black ear covering it, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, I don't have any music on. It's still disrespectful, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to have to tell you guys this stuff. You should be able to figure that out on your own. Somebody's talking to you. Peer, adult, parent, doesn't matter. Take out your headphones. 9 through 12. Oh?
Yeah, I was drawing, but then I didn't know you put the new ones up. Yeah, so it's
So wait, is it okay if we do
Gosh.
round on 12?
Would you leave it in the tenths or hundredths or
I
whatever?
just give it 34.97.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. I don't ever take off for extra accuracy. All right, moving on. 13, 14.
14.
14. Yeah.
An eagle perched 40 feet up in a tree looks down at a 35-degree angle and spots a vole. I don't know what that is. That or they meant a mole.
No, it's an actual thing.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
Is it related to a mole?
Yeah, they're kind of like moles, I think.
He looks down at an angle of 35 degrees. It's relative to the horizon. He's on top of the tree. His 0 degrees is the horizon. If he goes down 35, that's this angle. How far is the vole from the eagle to the nearest tenth of a foot is solving our hypotenuse. So if I use this angle, that's gonna be 55. It's complement. So if I want to use adjacent and opposite, that would be tangent. So I can set up tangent of 55 equals opposite over adjacent. So, or sorry, no, we want to solve the hypotenuse, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's direct distance, not horizontal distance. So that is going to involve the adjacent and the hypotenuse, which is cosine. The adjacent 40 over the unknown hypotenuse, so I'll just make that h. And my 55 looks really messy. But essentially your h and your cosine switch places, and we do 40 divided by cosine 55.
Wait, are we solving for hypotenuse or long leg?
Hypotenuse, because it's
Okay,
the
so that's what I
direct
thought,
length.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh, alright, that's where I screwed up. I was trying to. I thought
it's
we were
not this side, it's
I
this
got
side.
you. That's probably where I screwed up.
Now you could have also use the 35-degree angle and just set up this triangle, knowing that this would also be 40. You don't know the horizontal distance, but it doesn't matter. You could use the 35, and then it would be opposite an hypotenuse that we use. But either way, you get 69.73, or 74 if you round.
Did you go over that on notes?
Over what?
That you're supposed to use like the horizon line?
All angles, when given relative, are relative to the horizon. So when it says an eagle's perched on top of the tree, his 0 degrees is straight out. If he looks down, he starts right as soon as he starts looking down, we're counting. So 1, 2, 3. So that it's the difference between elevation and depression. That's where it matters. It's like we talked about the engineers when they're looking at changing a roadway. This is 0, and then I go up or I can go down, and that it starts immediately. It's all reference to the horizon. Now you stand 40 feet from a tree. You're looking up. Your eyes are 5 feet above the ground.
Oh man, I put 37.9.
Yeah, did you forget to add the 5 feet?
Oh no, I had 37.9. I just didn't add it in yours.
What? You mean 47.9?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said 37. Are we good through 19? Any questions?
Well, what about the 5?
Because we got to get you guys out of here. I just want to check the rest of this one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, you got 47?
Check through 26. If you have issues, circle them so we can come back to them tomorrow. We will check your final homework tomorrow, the 7-5, because we've talked about it a little bit, but I know there's some questions from there, bless you. And then we will hopefully finally get into 8-1. I can't go over anything else. I have to let you guys get to your next class. I would keep you here if I could. I can't. I can't. I know you want me to. I don't know what you're headed to next, but
Honestly, I like Spanish, so sorry, Mr. Hudson.
it's okay.
Yeah,
I want you guys to be well-rounded
It's
students.
so fun.
I mean, it's actually kind of fun.